Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. And in this one, I'm going to be taking a look at a Froslass Budew deck from a set Ascended Heroes. So for those of you who were familiar with like the Budew Froslass deck from the last format, you'll know that this deck is kind of annoying to play against. It's also kind of a skill-intensive deck. It's a bit more, I'd say, like skill-reliant compared to the stuff that I usually cover on this channel. So, you know, something worth bearing in mind if you are new to the hobby, but I'm sure, you know, anyone with enough practice can pick up these decks. Me, personally, I'm still a bit rubbish with this one. You know, this is definitely not a deck that I can really gel with that much. But I was really keen to try out a Mega Froslass build without using, like, the bad stuff, you know, like the new Frostmoth, which I don't think is very good, sadly. But, you know, I was just like, we've got to use it with the classic Froslass build, so figured I may as well try it. But yeah, the new Mega Froslass card has 310 HP, a retreat cost of 1, and weakness to metal. Thankfully, metal decks don't really exist right now in the game. Like, our Chaladon seems to have ran away, I guess, from the format for some reason. Like, King Gambit is kind of around on the ladder sometimes, but again, not really a particularly great deck. But, you know, post-rotation, our Chaladon might be better, but, you know, we'll just have to see how it all plays out with rotation and whatnot. But yeah, Mega Froslass has 2 pretty good attacks, Resentful Refrain being like the key one that you use in games. It does 50 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. So it's basically just a resource management focus thing where like you're forcing your opponent to always spend resources to play the game. And you know, of course, your opponent might not want to do that all the time. They might have important cards that they need to keep. But if they don't get rid of them, then you'll just do a lot of damage and probably KO whatever they have in the active spot. So, you know, 6 cards, 300 damage, 7 cards, 350, which is enough to KO pretty much everything in the game. So yeah, Resentful Refrain, pretty good attack. And then Absolute Snow, which is usable if you include things like Triple Acceleration Energy, which is not in this deck. But if you wanted to add a few copies of, you could, because this list is playing Hilda. But yeah, Absolute Snow for a water double colorless does 150, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. A surprisingly annoying attack to deal with if you ever wanted to use it, but to be honest, you probably shouldn't have to rely on it too much. And, you know, like, this deck is mainly focused on 1 energy attachments. It's why it can get away without having like a draw engine, basically, because you don't need that extra support. But, you know, at the same time, if you really wanted to, you could lean into Absolute Snow. But again, I've not really found much of a use for it. You know, like Resentful Refrain is definitely the better attack here. But yeah, as for the other Froslass, because they both evolve from Snorunt, we do, of course, play this one with Freezing Shroud. So during Pokemon Checkup, so basically just between turns, you get to put a damage counter on each Pokemon in play that has an ability. And of course, we are also pairing this up with Munkidori because it just makes sense. I mean, it's all 1 energy anyway, so, you know, kind of have to use Munkidori. Munkidori, of course, says if it has any dark energy attached to it, then we can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So Munkidori, basically, if you're new to these sorts of decks, will get damaged by Froslass over time, but then we can just heal Munkidori and get an extra 30 damage on one of our opponent's Pokemon, which is nice. But at the same time, you could also just use it to heal Mega Froslass. So, you know, there's always that as a nice option. So, you know, 310 HP, it sounds like a lot, but in this day and age, it's not really. So with enough, like, smaller attacks, you know, you're probably going to get 2-shotted anyhow. So having Munkidori at least offsets some of that earlier chip damage and, you know, gives you some protection against other Munkidori decks as well, which is nice. But another key component in this deck is, of course, Budew with the everyone's favorite attack, Itchy Pollen, so annoying to play against. But yeah, 10 damage for 0 energy, and they can't play any items. Also has free retreat, so it's a nice pivot. We do play 2 copies of Air Balloon in the list anyhow, but, you know, having a pivot on the board is quite nice. It's just the 30 HP is very fragile. Like, a soft breeze and Buddy will faint, but, you know, it's fine. He does his job. He's very annoying, so we play him. We also have a Maractus, which is more of a late game win condition than anything else, really, but corner is the main talking point here. 20 damage for colorless energy, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. So if you know your opponent is out of switches, then you can gust up, say, something like a Pheasantipity, and then you can just stall it for a few turns, basically. Like, of course, your opponent can start, like, attacking with usual bench sitters like Pheasantipity, to be honest. But, you know, like, there is other bench sitters like Squawkabilly and stuff, which are not, like, ideal to attack with, especially not into a Maractus. So, you know, it's a nice option at the very least. So, yeah, would definitely recommend a Maractus if you don't already play one. Also got a Moltres in here. This was originally a Japanese list. So, like, I was kind of surprised initially to see Moltres, but for a single Pharangy, which is also, of course, Luminous Energy, You can do Fighting Wings, which does 110 to a Pokemon EX, which just means that it takes a bit of pressure off like your early game damage, because like you've kind of only got two ways of dealing actual damage in this deck, like only two attacks really. Like Resentful Refrain being your main one, of course, and then Itchy Pollen being the others. So like you can do 10 damage or an attack that only does damage based on your opponent's hand size. So it is kind of nice to have an attack where you can actually just guarantee 110 into an EX. So, you know, it sets up KOs. It's better for like finishing something off really, because then it forces your opponent to boss around it. But you could also lead with a Moltres if you really wanted to. So that's a nice option. Also got a Psyduck in here, which is always quite nice. You know, a bit of Dusknoir protection. Also got a bit of Bloodmoon Ursaluna going on here. This is mainly after your opponent has KO'd like a Budew and a Froslass, and they're down to 2 prizes, and it's just like, okay, now I can use Bloodmoon for like 2 energy, and it's fantastic. But, you know, like, I don't think Bloodmoon is super useful right now. If we ever get any like big basic 2 prize EXs post-rotation that are really good, then I think Bloodmoon will become like great again, essentially. But, sorry, as it stands right now, I don't think Bloodmoon is like such a big part of this deck, at least not from what I've found in experience. Like, it's probably the most cuttable aspect of this list, it feels like. Like, maybe that's wrong, you know, in a tournament setting, it's a lot better, but right now for the ladder, I find myself, like, not really using Bloodmoon that much. So if you don't have one of these, then I wouldn't feel the pressure to craft one. I would just say add an extra supporter, or maybe even just another energy card if you fancied it. But yeah, as for trainers, nothing really that crazy, like 3 of the new Poké Pad. Search your deck for any Pokemon without a rule box. Pretty cool. Secret Box is the A spec of choice. It is a bit costly on our own hand, discarding 3 of the cards, but it does set you up very nicely turn 2. And of course, we can just do that with Arven, so very nice indeed. Also playing Risky Ruins, this will damage Munkidori when you bench it, which is very helpful. So it just gets that earlier pressure on without having to need, you know, Froslass already in play, which is nice. So just something I thought I'd worth mentioning. And then as for the energy count, we play 4 Luminous, 3 Dark, and 2 Water. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with this deck. It's definitely not the deck that I can play very well, so if I make any outrageous misplays, that is a bit of foreshadowing in the gameplay, then yeah, you know, don't come at me or anything, but, you know, it's definitely not my kind of deck, but I did still really want to play Mega Froslass. You know, I really want to try out some of the new stuff, and the Megas are cool, so, you know, I like Mega Pokemon, so yeah, let me know what you think about this deck down below, and yeah, thank you for watching. Okay, so my opponent is off to a pretty good start. You know, they do have a lot of pieces going, which is definitely a bit scary, but we do have our own stuff. Like, we have Lilies, which is fine. So, like, we have options, and we do draw some pretty good options, actually. I will go ahead and bump their stadium. It does give them access to another Pokemon, but also at the same time, I kind of want to just get my own board set up. So I think what I'm going to go for here is probably Munkidori, question mark. I could go Moltres, actually. Moltres isn't an insanely awful option because we do have Luminous for next turn. I will keep Maractus for now, and then I'm just going to go ahead and use the Itchy Pollen. So this might be a case of just Itchy Pollen slugfest until one of us gets KO'd. But at the same time, my opponent might also just go for 1 Itchy Pollen and then retreat and KO me with a Scratch, which is also probably the more likely play, to be honest. So we'll see what they do. They also don't have any energy in play, which is good. That's like the main problem with Zoroark, has always been like the energy, but it's fine. They still have plenty of time, and we're a pretty slow deck, so it would be a bit of a shame if they... Okay, so there's Munkidori. I see how it is. So they will be able to use their own, like, Munkidoris and their own Frost. So our Froslass will be used against us, technically, which is a bit of a shame, but we do also want to set up the annoying chain. So I'm going to go ahead and do things this way. And we do not need to evolve necessarily, so I'm not going to. I will, however, probably get a Poké Pad, I think. DM Evolution's not terrible, so we'll do that. Yeah, I will Poké Pad. He says, forgetting what Itchy Pollen means. That's just Itchy Pollen, it's fine. Why did I not use Munkidori? That was silly. I completely forgot I had that option. Never mind. It's fine. Okay, it's been a turn of mistakes, but it's cool, it's cool. We don't have any Okay, my opponent's just like, oh, whatever. That's fine. We can go ahead and I guess move all the damage off Budew onto this guy. That's fine. He's gonna heal, but like, who cares? It's gotta happen. It's gonna have to happen, you know. Unfortunately, we don't draw into anything we can use. So I guess water energy. We can build up to using absolute snow. It's always an option. I feel I should put the energy down, but I'm not sure who deserves the energy the most. I might just... okay, my opponent just concedes. Fair enough. They really couldn't handle the itchy pollen, but that also means I should probably go find another game with Mega Froslass in it. Yay. Alright, so it looks like we're up against a, I want to say Dragonite deck, but it could also just be a Zekrom build, but we'll have to see how this one goes. If it is Dragonite, I am a wee bit scared just because, well, Dragonite itself is quite tanky and hard to KO, which could prove to be a bit of a problem, but we'll just have to see how this one plays out. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and discard a couple of energy here. I think I'll get rid of the Dark, actually, which could be useful later on for Munkidori, but at least we have ways of recovering it anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and get a Hilda, I want to say. I think Hilda's fine for this turn. I do definitely want the Poffin. We will get a Devolution, I want to say. And I think Risky Ruins is also absolutely fine. So we can go ahead and get some Pokemon down. And I want some Budew and some Froslass action. So we will Air Balloon the active Munkidori. We will retreat it. And then we can bench this Munkidori. Luminous Energy the Munkidori. And then we can... Wait, why didn't I not... Oh my goodness, I'm actually the worst player imaginable. Okay, so that's definitely not what you should do in that situation. Definitely do not use these videos as tutorials for how to play these decks. My goodness, that was a heck of a misplay. So what I should have done there was put the Risky Ruins in play and then bench the other Munkidori, but it's fine. It's fine. All right, so they do go ahead and evolve, which is a surprising move, I guess, somewhat, because it's harder to retreat, and you definitely don't want Electrike in the active spot. But this could also just be a Mega Electros deck, so that's also an option. They do choose to drop the Maximum Belt on the Zekrom, which is... Actually, can Zekrom... Yeah, Zekrom is a bit scary. But that's fine. I'm really not sure what my opponent is playing. I don't think they're playing a very good deck, though. Just based on what I've seen so far. This could be the starter Dragonite deck, maybe, but we'll have to see. At least we'll be able to use Mega Froslass this game, though, which I'm happy about, because I definitely have been struggling to find a game where I can actually use Mega Froslass. Like, it's one of those things where, like, you want to showcase the new stuff and showcase why it can be really strong, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, you know, it can be a bit tricky. We'll do the damage over here. I think that's fine. And then we can Water Energy the Mega Froslass. And I know often in this situation, it's actually just a good idea to sit and camp with Budew, but I do also just want to utilize Mega Froslass to some degree. So we will be using the attack. And if all else fails, it has a retreat cost of 1 anyway, so we can just retreat it. So that's fine. Get a prize card, which is nice. Okay, another Night Stretcher. Not super useful. But yeah, we do kind of want to maybe draw into something a bit more useful. Perhaps a Froslass, like the regular one, or a Supporter would be nice to see. But we'll see what my opponent does here. They are kind of on the back footing. If they draw too many cards, we can just KO whatever they promote. So it's pretty useful for us. But yeah, having to constantly shrink your hand size to escape the resentful refrain is very irritating, I would say. So it does look like my opponent is maybe timing out. Are they trying to stall me out with a victory? We'll see. It's not going to work for them because they'll just be inactive for too long, but we'll see. Okay, they give me Zekrom, which is a choice, to be fair. Probably just better off giving me Zeraora in that situation, but I can't imagine what else they have to work with. Bro, that is not the play you want to be making. That is... Okay, fair enough, you had the boss. Do they boss up something? Well, okay, that's not the worst thing to boss up. We can also just Night Stretcher for a Dark Energy. But to be fair, that was the correct thing to boss up in that situation, because this has free retreat, that can retreat for 1 energy, that has free retreat, so, you know, it is technically the right choice. Still, in that situation, you're much better off putting Zeraora in the active spot. And then why did they not bench what they just Poké Padded for? I'm confused. That's fine. Right, we'll Nest Ball. Probably just for another Snorunt, actually. We could get Maractus, but I think we're fine. Yeah, we'll just go to Snorunt. Risky Ruins. We get some more damage, which is cool. Not that I don't think the damage is going to matter, question mark. Because we're doing... Yeah, we're doing... Oh, wait, no, it will matter, actually, because we're only doing 200. So, yeah, we have to... Wait, no, we're not. We're not doing 200. We're doing 250. I can't count to save my life, apparently. Right, we'll Night Stretcher for a Dark Energy. Oh, for a second, I thought that was on Budew. I was about to cry. Right, retreat Snorunt into Froslass, and then Skadoosh. 250, just like that. And that's just because they had a 5-card hand. I mean, obviously, this is not, like, the best deck against Megas. Like, Megas are definitely a bit trickier to play against because, like, of course, you need to do the whole set up the KOs with Munkidori and Budew, but I think overall against the 2-prize meta, Froslass is pretty solid.